They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host.
Hello, JD.
Melissa. And we got a pretty awesome show for you today. I'm really excited to introduce to you guys Joe Robert. He's the CEO of Robert Ventures. They're an asset management company dealing with everything from residential real estate to digital assets, which I'm sure we're going to get into. Joe, man, thank you so much for finding time for us today. I can't wait to hear your story.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. And I'm sure for all listeners, hopefully we'll give them something good today here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, because some of our listeners probably don't know who you are, some of them might know who you are. Can you kind of give us a little bit of your background and then lead into what you're doing today? And we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah. So at a high level, we'll take it back to kind of what prompted the start of my real estate career. Was through high school. One way for me to get out of class was to attend the tech school. And so I attended there for construction. And so therefore in my teenage years, I was doing landscaping and construction. Now I get out of high school and at the age of 19, this is back, I think about 2001-ish, I decided to buy a piece of property. I moved into there. I fixed that up. Sold after the 2-year mark. And for those that are listening, you have the tax benefits as a primary residence if you reside in a property for at least 2 years. So that was my first entrance into the real estate market. And that was kind of led by me doing construction work as a teenager.
Awesome. And so your first residential property, you lived in it for 2 years and then moved on and turned it into a rental. Is that what you did? Or you flipped it by
resold it? Yes. Okay. Resold that property. Correct.
And then I assume that you made a little bit of money or a lot of money. I'm not sure, but that kind of gave you the real estate bug and pushed you further into real estate investing. And then from real estate investing, where did you go from there?
Yeah. So after that kind of led me, also at that time, my mom started investing in real estate. So this is the 2000s, and through that era of that boom, we'll call it, right? Where whoever kind of went through there probably had some lessons that they learned. So from there, I kind of started investing in real estate, actually down in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. We're buying some land to subdivide. We were buying some properties to fix up and resell. And that kind of went through that cycle. And obviously with that crash, we ended up holding some properties and owing the bank some money, worked through that. And then in, a couple of years later, probably about 2010, started fixing properties back up and buying again in the Philadelphia area. And it was one property I was fixing up. My private lender said he was going to start moving his capital over to another fund. And I was like, well, what's happening? I'm paying you 15%. What are you doing? He's going to get 18%, right? Now, today, 18% sounds kind of crazy, but like 10 years ago, the returns were different on a lot of these deals. So I went over there to see what was going on. And this company was actually buying distressed residential mortgages. Mm-hmm. And so kind of going through the 2000s crash, I thought it was very interesting to get on the other side of the transaction and kind of own the debt versus owe the debt, right? Sure. And so after a few months, me and another guy and started buying some loans, and we got into the loan business. And so on the residential side too. So fast forward, we're buying some pools of loans, and 2014 comes along, and, growing up from the Philadelphia area, I was like interested in maybe going somewhere a little bit warmer, maybe more tax friendly. So I asked the lawyer, I was like, hey, is there anything with these, Cayman Islands or foreign jurisdictions with legal tax? Because this is Obama was kind of talking about cracking down these things, everything happening. And so he mentioned something about Puerto Rico. and didn't know much about it. I went home, Googled that, and a few months later, we decided to make the move down there.
Wow.
So that was the next move for us. So my one partner and I, we moved down there, and for tax benefits on the loans that we're investing in, and we built relationships with the lawyers and banks down there, and started buying bulk REOs from the banks there.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And so, were you running a crew? So you're buying the bulk REO, not the properties. You were still buying the debt at that time.
That's a good question. So when we got down there, we were buying REOs initially from the bank down there, actual properties. Probably about 70 to 80% of that was residential, and then there was maybe another 10, 20% of that was commercial, from industrial to office condos to chicken farms to a motel to a little bit of everything came in the package. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And then what was your strategy to make money off of that REO? Was it just a flip play? Were you turning it into rentals? Were you packaging them together and just reselling them to other investors? How were you monetizing that aspect of your business?
Yeah, so typically, probably over the last 10, 15 years, it's kind of been on more of a short-term strategy, anywhere from a quick flip, let's call it 6 months, to maybe up to a 3-year hold. So the strategy on most of those properties was to turn them over within a few-year period, whether that was some type of value add or just being able to resell them right away, it just depending on where that condition of that property was.
Right. Now, so that's in Puerto Rico. Is there anything different or anything that was strange about operating a real estate investment business in Puerto Rico versus America, aside from the tax benefits?
I would say a lot of it was very similar. Very similar. I mean, the deed and the registry is probably different in that aspect of how that's created in that different format than we do here. But a lot of things are very similar in the regards of what we do back stateside.
Gotcha. And there was no problem with you coming in. Did you have to use different entities? Did you have to, I know that there's some countries when you're buying real estate there, people that are not citizens of that country have to go through an intermediary and that kind of stuff. Was there any of that kind of stuff to deal with down there?
No, there wasn't any of those hurdles. Well, it's pretty simple. It's pretty similar to buying, stateside, buying property in the stateside, pretty much could use a stateside entity. You could set up an entity in Puerto Rico, make that purchase. You have the option to get title insurance there if you would like. Also, you get the property insurance. Very similar.
Awesome. Now, did you start a crew down there? Did you have in-house employees, or were you just using contractors to run your flips or your rehabs and do it like that, or was it all an in-house, self-contained?
So it used subs, definitely was different crews to do certain things. We've probably been more on the lean side over the years, and not have built more than, let's call it, a handful internal staff at any one time.
Sure.
And kind of outsource the rest.
Okay. And so after I'm sure you made a ton of money doing that, especially back in that time frame. There was a lot of REO type properties. So after that kind of ran its course, where did you end up?
Well, that's kind of so, that'll lead a little bit, so while residing in PR, obviously we're building relationships with other people that move there for the tax benefits. That's kind of how I stumbled upon the digital asset space and blockchain technology, crypto. Coming from the real estate side for the last, call it now 20 years, it was kind of intriguing to maybe learn something new, right? That you're not familiar with. And you kind of, if you look at everyday life, we're participating with digital devices, like technology is going into every company, and you know exactly where we're going in the future, a digital world, right? So we started investing ourselves, and then basically over the last 5 years, we've increased our investment in that area, built out relationships. We manage portfolio liquid digital assets. We have investments in maybe like 8 or 9 other different funds across the area that cover different aspects of the sector. And, most of the assets that we had acquired over the last 10 years, we did sell probably between 2018 and 2021-ish. Right now, currently, I have, I think we have about a handful of properties left in Puerto Rico and maybe about 12, 13 lots over here that we're building new homes. Maybe looking to add to that depending on what pricing we could get and kind of seeing what the market is doing right now.
Sure. Yeah, it's what we think has happened is it's kind of hit the peak and it's going to go into a more balanced market from now on. I don't think we're going to see the extreme appreciation that we've seen over the last couple of years. It's just not sustainable. Okay, now when you're talking about these digital assets, can you break that down? Are you talking like Dogecoin, Bitcoin? Are you what are you, the NFTs? What is it that you are actually talking about?
Yeah, so it's mostly been around for us, and what we've been investing is mostly around we'll call it the layer one blockchains, like the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, certain projects like that. Also tokens within the DeFi space. Not so much the NFTs yet. I am exploring that maybe like from a music based side, just as an investment. But I think for everybody listening to understand is like, don't get caught up in the hype, right? I mean, this is going to take 10 to 20 years to play out. So the user experience and everything that you get right now is not what it's going to be in 10 years.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I'm interested in your thoughts behind the digital currency and that's because to me, one, it's not a physical asset. And so that's a huge hurdle that I have to get over. Right. But when I'm looking at it, are you looking at it based off of its exchange rate and the way that it trades, similar to the way somebody would look at a stock portfolio? Or are you looking at it as the actual value? Because when I'm looking at houses, I look at it as this is a physical thing with value, in the nails and the roof and the air conditioners, but it's also has a value because I can put somebody in there and receive rental payments for it, and it appreciates. And that's why I chose real estate over the stock market, which to me is some piece of paper somewhere that if somebody else's business does good, the value increases, so I get to reap that reward. How can I wrap my mind around the digital currency, the digital space?
Great question. So
big question.
Let's see what we can dig up, right? I think let's see. If we were to look at like everything is just going digital, right? So like if you use your phone, let's take hit on music, right? So there's a Spotify, there's YouTube Music, right? All these areas. So these are all digital assets that are being created, right? And so the ability for artists to make these NFTs and be able to create music has value because it's a supply and demand, right? Like you'll pay for that subscription because you want to hear that music. So I think if you believe that there's going to be a lot of digital assets, like everything we just use is digital assets, I guess. I'm not even from that. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. Everything from the Zoom that we're on right now to the apps that we have on our phone to, everything in between.
Correct. And so I guess my belief is fully that everything's, I don't want to say like everything because never 100%, but most things are going to be digitized in some capacity, right? Even a lot of these real estate private placements, et cetera, may be tokenized at a later date where people will be able to trade them and have liquidity. It's not there today, but I could see it maybe in 5 or 10 years where there'll be more larger transactions that are tokenized and traded. And that's, will be a digital asset.
Sure. Yeah,
so all assets can be basically represented by a digital form. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Even real world assets can be represented by a digital form. So we could say digital asset, but it still could represent a piece of real estate.
Right. Where the house at 123 Main Street has a digital token, and instead of all of the paperwork, the deed, everything else, people would just transfer the token or a portion of that token instead of actually transferring ownership of the deed, I guess.
Correct. I mean, a perfect world would be, some type of digital asset that represents that asset, within the blockchain on a ledger, basically. So if you want to buy that, like you walk in a property, there's no reason why you literally can't like push a button, instantly get a loan, instantly transfer the deed if it's all legitimately transparent and up to date. Does that make sense? Like there should be no title, there shouldn't be title insurance that exists. That's only because records may not be in great shape in the past.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting.
It is definitely interesting. Do you think that what do you think the timeline is that we'll see real estate start trending that way, utilizing blockchain and some of these processes that are already out there?
Well, maybe we're like, inning one right now. Like we're testing the waters in certain things. I know someone just posted something the other day, recording some type of I think it was a deed transaction on Ethereum blockchain, right? So I think what we're doing is just testing these right now and kind of seeing what's going to happen. I mean, I always like to say the problem we always have is some type of politics or government bodies that move way slower than we would all like to move, right? And so the reality of certain jurisdictions adopting it is probably going to be what's the headwind, right? So I'm sure as we implement these things, they'll go to certain counties or certain states. I don't know. Maybe like right now they're testing some in Florida, so it might be easier to execute there. And then if it works, it'll slowly over time get rolled out. No different than some of the county records being brought into digital format back years ago, right?
Yeah, where they had to scan every document.
Yes.
Yeah, same process. And then there's some places that are still have, warehouses full of documents with all of the recorded information and they haven't got it digital yet. And those are outliers. I assume it'll be the same thing with, blockchain and maintaining records that way.
Yeah. And one thing, like, here's just a simple thing is you got Airbnb, right? You have property there, you get reviews, right? Now, if they're all great reviews, you put in a year or two work and you want to move over to, Verbo, Booking, a new platform, right? Mm-hmm. You have to start all over. And so what Web3 and everything is really about is you actually being able to have ownership of those reviews. So this way, that application, you want to go over here and plug it in, you don't lose that work that you did. Right. So that's an example of what we're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And now you're purchasing different digital assets and investing in that. Are you doing that with a fund? Are you only using your money to do that? Are you bringing on partners? What does that look like for your guys' business?
Yeah, so we have been the last 5 years investing with our own capital and a couple other people I strategically work with. Over the next month or so, we're going to be doing something that's going to be probably a hybrid between the real estate and technology asset, like a fixed income type of return from an 8 to 10%.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so when we're doing that kind of stuff, we got SEC requirements and all of that. What does that look like for you, or how are you structuring those investments to?
Yeah, so we're gonna do it's a 506c. It's a debt offering, so we'll issue notes at a term of 1 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. 1 year will be at 8%, and the ability to do an 8% compound, and 3 year will be at 10% with the ability to also do a compound. Really, because we found that some people, especially with their IRA accounts, may choose to go with the compound route because obviously, if you get a small payment every month, you can't typically reinvest that back anywhere else, right? Mm-hmm. And you have the tax benefits. So we found that certain people liked that aspect over the last 10 years when we've raised in the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, I think that it's very similar to just your regular syndications, your financial advisors that push you into different stock portfolios, that kind of stuff. It's not, I guess I assumed, when we were talking beforehand, that it was going to be some mind-boggling thing that I wouldn't be able to comprehend, but it's super similar to it's just a different asset class, and you're still investing, the same way as all the multifamily investment funds, all that other, regular investment funds. It's just a different widget. It's
correct. And the more you start looking around and realize that, because I've kind of come to realize that the last few years, like I was talking to some guy in the music industry, and like they are kind of like venture capitalists too, right? They place small bets on these artists and musicians, and they lose some and they win some. And that's kind of, it's all a very similar process, right? I mean, because it's all at the end of the day, somewhat of a product. You make an investment, you're going for that, whatever that is, 20, 30, 40% annualized return. And then you make a spread or you share with investors. And, it's basically just the same across different asset classes in some capacity.
Yeah, awesome. Well, if any of our listeners wanted to find out more about either the digital asset space or the real estate stuff that you're doing, or maybe they have questions for you, where could we send them where they'd be able to find some more information, connect with you on some of the other things?
Yeah, I mean, if they're interested in the digital asset side, I mean, we have a free, weekly newsletter that gives insights to what's happening in the market. You go to joerobert.com, subscribe there. If anyone's accredited and would like to talk about our upcoming offering or anything else, about what we're investing in, they could go to robertventures.com, fill out the form, book a call with me, and I'd be glad to speak with them.
All right, I got that, and we'll definitely link those in the show notes. Joe, we really appreciate your time today. Thanks for sharing this with our audience. I think it's a unique perspective and definitely unique to our show. We've never had anyone talk about it before, so I think there was a lot of value there.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.